Morning to all our viewers out there, and a very happy Sinhala and Tamil New Year to each and every one of you. Now, joining us on the dawn of the Sinhala and Tamil New Year is Chris Quine. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Fox Resorts. A very good morning, Chris, and welcome to the show.
Good morning to you, Sharlan, and a very, very peaceful and blessed Sinhala and Tamil New Year to all our listeners and to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Very happy Sinhala and Tamil New Year to you too. Chris, we've had a lot of medical professionals on our show during the past few days. They spoke about the health complications that can arise in the future surrounding this COVID-19 outbreak here in Sri Lanka and the current situation and how people should respond. Of course, among the concerns that the people have in the country right now are the health concerns on one hand and the economic concerns on the other. Now, you as a representative of the hotel industry, you've suffered, your industry has suffered the most in the most recent times, especially with the April 21st attacks last year, and now this, a complete lockdown, not only of the entire country, but of the entire world. Chris, as a first-hand person who is experiencing all of this in your industry, what has really happened in the industry?
Yeah, if you look at what happened on the 21st of April last year, and the impact of that was only over, or we just got over that around about November last year. So if you look at November, December, January, we looked at good months, business picked up, all segments picked up from various parts of the globe, and we were doing quite well until, unfortunately, this happened.
Right.
This is a complete different game for us now, because we have never seen anything like this before. Earlier, we had a 30-year war, then we had the April 21st attack, and like you said, we always were in some sort of situation and tourists were affected. But we all knew it was all about Sri Lanka and the position that we had in Sri Lanka. If by chance we could get that right, we had the world to come to us.
Right.
So it was a situation of making things okay for us in Sri Lanka, for people to come where it was safe.
Resolving matters on our own house, in our own house.
In our own house, because the world wanted to come and visit us. We are a beautiful nation, and we offer such a diversity of from the mountains to the beaches to the wildlife and history. And we have so much to offer that people would come and see us. But now it's a different scenario altogether, where we have to think completely differently. The whole market will change, and for the next 9 months, maybe to 1 year or 1.5 years, we have to make a different strategy altogether on how we want to get our business in. But everything will start from the time this is over, from the time COVID-19 finishes and the cases stop or reduce drastically. That will be the day we start.
Is this the cases reduced drastically in Sri Lanka or in the world?
First in Sri Lanka, then in the world, because we would first look at our domestic tourism.
Right.
The hotels, if you look at the hotels, out of Colombo, it will be the Sri Lankans who will fill it in first. So we'll say this is over by end of April. You give it 3 months from there, and by July, August, you'll have a certain amount of Sri Lankans traveling to resorts. There will be a certain amount. Where Colombo is concerned, it will be dine-in options, not really stayovers, but dine-in options. But if you look at the local segment, they will travel. Give them 3-4 months, they will travel. People will say, yeah, but now you are in a situation where people don't have the same income that they had last year, because everybody is taking a hit, or some people have lost their jobs. Still, there will be a certain segment that will travel. You wouldn't have the huge numbers, but people will travel, and obviously hotels will give special deals and weekend packages, and you will get a certain amount of people traveling. That is short term. Then I reckon after about 3 months, after this is over, you can you could get onto the Indian market, because the Indians will travel. There again, we have to see how it has stopped in India. If this COVID-19 is still in India, nothing will happen.
Right.
But if it happens 3 months down the line, they will travel. There is no doubt about it, the Indians will travel. Then you look at the Chinese 6 months down the line, and then you see how things go up from there onwards. But for anything to happen, we have to first see, we have to solve the biggest problem, which is the COVID-19 at the moment.
And find an answer to the million-dollar question.
Find an
when
answer.
will the COVID-19 cases
Yeah,
stop
at least
coming
when
in?
will you see a decline. Then people can look at this and say, okay, this is what we want to go. But as for the hotel industry, we have to be prepared when this happens. We can't do it when this is over. It will be too late. So you need to have a plan A and a plan B. And this is our plan A, this is what we want to do. It will depend on every company. It won't be a blanket rule for all companies. So it depends on the size of the hotels you have, on your staff strength, whether you are a small operator or a very large operator, you will have your own plan. But the best is to plan yourself out now, so that when this is over, you are ready to kick in with your marketing strategies. What are you going to do? How are you going to sell it? What are your avenues of selling? Which areas are you going to sell? And this has to be carefully thought out. So depending where your hotels are and what your segment is, you need to be clear on what you want to sell.
Chris, besides the initial issues I said that the people have, be it health issues, economic issues, there is another very important aspect that the people are suffering in, and that also falls into the health issue category, but it is not a physical health issue, but mental health issues. Specifically speaking about the fact that, like you said before, many people have got laid off from their work. Many people have had pay cuts. Many people who are self-employed can't engage in their livelihoods. Many people who have worked at certain organizations for years and years had to be laid off. Now, as the Chief Executive Officer, you would have had to go through the motions and go through these processes. How do you do that?
See, if you look at the industry itself, we have approximately 250,000 people employed in the industry. That is, if you look at the hotels, there will be waiters, there will be cooks, there will be bellboys, there will be receptionists, there will be gardeners, so on and so forth. That's 250,000. If you look at the other segment that supports the industry, you are looking at the safari jeep drivers, the boat guys who run the boats.
Tour guides. The
tour guides. If you are looking at the people on the beach who sell their handicrafts, their carvings, things like that, you have another 250,000 people there. Okay. Then if you take that, the 250 that's within the hotel and the 250 that is linked to it, it's a total of 2 million that are affected because they have their families that depend on them. If you take that 2 million, it's 10% of our population that's going to be affected. This is a huge problem which people have to look at. You asked me the question as a CEO, we are in a process of laying off people. The reason is because if you don't downsize this, you will collapse. You will not be able to sustain yourself. But if you cut down and take a bare minimum, when business picks up, you will be able to start your operation, and with that start getting the people you have laid off. So you will tell them, yes, you will not have a job for maybe 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, even more, but you will be the first to be called.
Right.
Now, it's not an easy job to call somebody and tell them who you've been with for 2 years or more and tell them you don't have a job from tomorrow. It's a tough call. In the interest of the business, you have to do it. Otherwise, you'll never be able to give the guy a job back in 6 months. So you have to do it. But it's not easy. I feel that, in my opinion, that certain companies, maybe large companies who have to lay off a lot of people, should have a team of people or individual people who can do counseling. Counseling for the people who are being laid off to tell them, look, you know, it's not that you're going to be out of a job for the rest of your lifetime, but you will get a job. See other areas where they can, if he's a cook and he's laid off, can he go and work, you know, in another restaurant somewhere, in a shop somewhere? Can he do his own catering? Guide them, do some counseling for them. Apart from that, the person who has to send 100 people home, it's not easy. It's a very, very difficult job. You need to suddenly wake up and stare at the ceiling and say, you know, you've laid off 100 people today. It's very difficult.
Think about their families.
Think about their families. What are they going to say? Did you have a choice? No, you didn't have a choice, because you've done it in the best interest of getting them back one day. But I feel that large companies, maybe they should look at this, and it will help everybody. And I feel that there must be people who work in NGOs and places like that who will do it free of charge. So I don't think it should be a burden on any company to do it. But there will be people who will come and help out, who will volunteer to do this type of work. And all you need is a desk and a chair, a small office somewhere to give somebody to, you know, talk to staff. And I feel this is something that should be done. It's my opinion that this should be done. It will help a lot of people to get out of this situation.
Also, Chris, as far as people losing their jobs and all that go, especially in the hotel industry, about how many people do you think will be affected by this?
I think out of the 250,000, if you look at the Colombo hotels, I think that most of the Colombo hotels will keep their staff. But all the contract staff will go home. But they don't have a lot of contract staff. But out of Colombo, the resorts, is a lot of contract staff. There are a lot of contract staff, because that's how they operate. So they'll still. So I think out of the 250, you may have 250,000. Again, you may have 150,000 with 200,000 people unemployed. And then there are again another 200,000 from there onwards. And that's where the problem is.
And do you think that this situation will worsen if this outbreak continues to affect the country?
If it continues, definitely it will worsen. It will be a bigger problem for us. We just pray and hope that so far we've been blessed that the leaders have done the right thing right from the start about quarantining these people who came from overseas, and that has helped us. Imagine if they didn't do that and all these people were allowed to roam freely. We'll be having, I guess, thousands and thousands of people affected by now. Not, I think we are on 120 or something like that.
210.
210. So you're spot on your numbers, isn't it? So yeah, 210. We would have maybe 2,000 over.
And the number is constantly increasing.
Yeah, I think the
discipline
is very important, and I think that's where we need to, you know, praise the forces, and you know, they've done an absolutely splendid job right now, and that has helped to, you know, to curtail this to 210.
Of course, Chris, besides the people who you spoke about, the people that you have to directly lay off, your staff, people who you have been closely working with for years and years on end, there are also another set of people that are affected, and you spoke about them as well, the people who supply you with the raw materials, be it for food, be it for other services, people in the area who make a living by selling items to hotels, to resorts, to tourists that come. As far as these people's lives go, we know that they have been severely impacted because, correct me if I'm wrong, but tourists in hotels is very close to zero right now, the number of tourists in many hotels.
I think it's zero all over. A few visitors are staying in some of the Colombo hotels or just out of Colombo, but there were people in apartments and they moved to, who were here on a long-term contract. So they're here because the hotel may be able to give them to eat and drink, and it's slightly easier. And a few people didn't go back. So they're staying over here and they will go back once this is over. But yeah, there's nothing.
So now, since these people's lives are affected, of course, the supply chain to your hotels are broken down. Are there any plans on how you will deal with this on the long run, how you will restart your operations?
Yeah, so we would restart our operation first by doing packages for Sri Lankans. Right now, in a hotel in Jaffna and Kandy, we have started lunch packets and dinner packets, so people can order lunch and dinner in the two properties. So to keep the kitchens going and keep a little bit of staff until this immediate problem is over. So that is happening at the moment. We will do things like honeymoon packages because in locations like that, people want to have a lot of photo. When they get married, they do a lot of photo shoots. So we can offer our hotel for that one night stay. We can do lunches and dinners and that. But that's just to scrape the surface. There's nothing, that's no proper income that will come from things like that. But it'll still keep the hotels going. But once this is all over, you have to get the Sri Lankan market back, then you have to get the Indian, then the Chinese, and see how it goes from there. But nothing will happen for the next 3 months, maybe 6 months. And if you're looking at filling the hotels, then of course it's 9 months and over, unless some miracle happen and, you know,
someone finds a cure.
Somebody finds a cure for this, this is all over, and then people start traveling again and airlines start operating, the world gets back to normal, and then we can see this.
Of course, Chris, it's a known fact that the government is under a lot of pressure these days because of the COVID-19 outbreak, and people around the country are asking for concessions. Now, the hotel industry did get concessions after the April 21st attack. Not only hotel industry, the tour guides, tour bus operators, they got concessions on their leases, they got concessions on their loans. This time around, how has the response been from the Ministry of Tourism?
Yeah, so the hotels have got loans. We have already applied for our loan. It's 25 million is the loan we've got. It's one of many industries that have been helped out. So tourism industry one, and we've applied for it. So it will give us some grace to run maybe for the next 6 months at least. See how it goes from there. To operators, I know also this lease has been once again extended. So if you ran a bus company, I think this has been extended now, so there's a little bit more way for them, but they need business. You know, you're extending your loans, it's not going to be great. It will just allow you to survive for the day or for the month, but business has to come back. So these are things that the government have done which will be okay for now. But then when business comes back to normal, maybe the industry itself, the tourism industries get together and see how we can promote Sri Lanka, what sort of marketing strategies we can do as a group together with the tourist board and get the help from the tourist board. So if you want to do a road show in India, in all the cities in India, maybe the tourist board can come in with the private sector and we can go together, and then, you know, they can help us out in things like that. So we need to work when things get back to normal and ensure that we work with the tourist board and they give us some concessions on travel and making promotions happen.
So besides the loans, those are the possible ways that you believe that the government can provide a stimulus to the tourism industry?
They can, apart from promoting tourism once it's back, which is going to play a big part.
Well, in the meantime, do you believe that there are any other ways that the government can help businesses, especially, like you said, to keep these businesses afloat?
See, everybody needs cash.
Okay.
Everybody needs cash. To keep businesses afloat, you need to pay the salaries, which is the biggest component. You can put your ACs off, you can put your lights off, you can run minimum cost, but your salary at the end on your P&L is the biggest cost. So to do that, you need cash. So if the government was to help out any industry, it has to be through way of loans. And I'm sure the government has a lot of problems at the moment as well, because this is going to affect the government for a long, long time, for the whole country for a long time, for the world. So they have to help out people.
Also, Chris, the rupee is fast depreciating in the current day and age. Especially, we saw a hike of about 5 rupees in one day very recently.
That's right.
So with the rupee depreciating, how has it made things worse for you?
Well, at the moment, because there's no business, we have to wait till the business picks up.
Okay.
But it will definitely affect us, because when we buy stuff, we buy materials, it will affect us. It will affect the whole industry will be affected with this. Let's hope that it won't shoot up anymore, that it will stay at this. And we have to pray and hope that this will be over soon.
Also, Chris, the government has been taking measures, and as this government came into power, not to take this on a political note, but there were a lot of tax concessions given to the general public. The pay taxes
Which
were
has come
slashed.
back.
Yes, but the pay taxes come back, but is an optional.
Yeah.
It's an option. People don't have to pay it. They can pay it if they want to. So do you believe that these measures of slashing taxes and reducing government revenue would have hindered the response that the government could have given in the form of stimulus packages for various industries right now?
I think we need to understand that the government also needs money.
Yes.
And if the taxes are imposed again, we would have to pay it. And whether it's 18 or 24%, we have to pay the taxes because the government needs money. And taking out the taxes, and I think now the employer has to once again pay the taxes through the employee.
Yes.
So we just need to get it paid as quickly as possible and give the government the money that they need. We don't have much of a choice in that. But where taxes are concerned, taxes will stay. I don't think they'll be able to remove taxes even of the government, of the hotel industry. Taxes will stay.
Also, given the manner in which Sri Lanka tackled the COVID-19 outbreak in the country, we are now speaking of systematically resuming life in Sri Lanka back to normalcy. Now, it was announced that schools, second term for schools, will be reopened on the 11th, judging by the current progression of events. And also universities are also planning on reopening in 3 stages. How does the hotel industry plan on opening themselves up to the general public?
Yeah, that's going to be very, we are not interested, but you have to be very careful.
Tricky.
Yeah, very, very careful. Because when you open the restaurants, you cannot allow people to just flock in. So if you have a restaurant in Colombo and it has 100 seats, you should not allow 100 people come and dine straight away. Should not be the case. People should not dine in groups, in my opinion. It should be 2s or 3s, and there should be a distance between each, because you don't want to have another episode of this.
Second outbreak, a second
you
wave.
don't want to have that. So if they open it, it shouldn't be that every place is open and people can come and just flock to every restaurant. There should be some sort of control over that.
Because right now people are dying inside their houses.
Yeah. So it should be careful. You should be in groups of maybe 3s, 4s maximum, not 10s and 15s. There should be a distance. There should be a social distance between tables. There should not be any buffets. It should be all a la carte.
Right.
So I think when this happens, people will get together. They'll come up with some sort of solution for this. Because if not, you can have another problem. Because somebody goes and he serves from a buffet and they can infect the buffet, and then 50 people can get it overnight. And if they get it, that means all your hotel staff is gone once again. So you need to be careful there. And every pub, every restaurant, it has to be planned. And I'm sure they will do this. You just don't open a hotel and say, now come in and wine and dine. You need to be careful there. There has to be social distancing there.
Also, after the April 21st attacks, we saw that metal detectors were imported. A lot of security equipment were imported from other countries, and they were set up in front of hotels. When you're going into a hotel, you're checked from, your entire body is checked actually. Following the COVID-19 outbreak, are there any plans to set up?
No, I think
health checks?
It has not been discussed as of now, whether there's going to be temperature checks as you walk in. I think the security check will go on because that's around the world. So everybody who comes into Sri Lanka has no problem sending their bags through a scanner because it's done around the world. Whether you're going to have a body temperature check over the next 6 months may not happen. We don't know. But if it happens, I think it's for the good of everybody. I think it's for the good of everybody, and we shouldn't have any problems. Any measures to stop this or to ensure it does not spread is something we should all help out with.
Right. Chris, thank you very much for joining us on our show this morning. One final question to you, Chris. How hopeful are you that the tourism sector in Sri Lanka will bounce back to its former glory? At the end of 2018, we thought 2019 will be our biggest year. We were aiming for a 5 billion rupee income from the hotel industry, the tourism industry, but of course all of those went down the gutter.
2020 we were expecting 2.3 million tourists, but we ended up, last year we had 1.8 million tourists, so we were expecting 2.3, and we would have got it for sure. Sorry, continue.
Do you think that Sri Lankan, how hopeful are you that the tourist industry here in Sri Lanka will bounce back? Do you believe we are resilient enough?
I think it will bounce back quicker than what we think of it. It will bounce back. I think there has to be an end to this, and it will end. And once it ends, I think give it a year, things will get back to normal, and people will start traveling again, and the hotels will definitely boom. Sri Lanka will get back to normal. I'm 100% confident about that. Absolutely no problem. It's a matter of time before this gets back. And Sri Lankans, especially our hotels, we have gone through various difficult times, and we've always been able to have something. We have never closed down. We've always had some sort of business in. So once people start traveling, hotels will be there, and people will wait to welcome them, because everybody is so desperate for jobs now. So even the people laid off will be waiting to come back, and I think this will all turn around. And maybe next 1 year, when we have another discussion in a year's time, we can, be happy about this one.
On the dawn of the Sinhala and Tamil New Year of the year 2021.
I reckon this will be all over and done with, and a lot of people will be enjoying long weekends next year, what they would have done this year. So they'll be there.
Thank you very much, Chris, for joining us on our show this morning. Thank you very much to all our viewers out there for tuning in. Of course, Newsline does not take a break. We will join you same time, same place tomorrow. Until then, stay at home, stay safe, take care, and God bless.
Newsfirst, Newsline.